The Atlanta skyline glowed under the late afternoon sun, its glass towers reflecting ambition and possibility. Tanisha Carter, 34, guided her rental car into the valet lane of the Grand Meridian Hotel, a sleek symbol of luxury in downtown Atlanta. Her hands lingered on the steering wheel, grounding herself. As the CEO of Carter Innovations, a tech startup revolutionizing financial access for underserved communities, Tanisha had earned her place among the elite. Tonight, she was in town for the Black Excellence Gala, where her keynote speech would cap years of sacrifice. The Grand Meridian, with its five-star reputation, was her chosen haven to prepare. Stepping out, Tanisha smoothed her tailored blazer, her natural curls catching the warm breeze. The valet, a young man with a practiced nod, took her keys without a glance. Her laptop bag, heavy with the weight of her polished presentation, rested on her shoulder. The hotel's entrance loomed ahead, its gold-trimmed glass doors promising elegance. Yet, as she approached, a subtle unease stirred. The doorman's eyes flicked over her, his gaze lingering in a way that felt all too familiar, assessing, doubting, dismissing. The lobby was a cathedral of wealth, marble floors gleamed under chandeliers, and the air carried a faint lavender scent. Tanisha's heels clicked with purpose as she crossed to the check-in desk. The clerk, Marlene, a woman in her 40s with a tight bun and a name tag, looked up from her computer. Her smile was polite but thin, like a formality she'd rather skip. Tanisha set her ID and credit card on the counter, her voice steady. She'd booked a deluxe suite months ago, ensuring rest before her speech. Marlene's fingers paused over the keyboard, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the ID. A quiet tension settled between them. Marlene's lips pursed, and she typed slowly, as if searching for something to justify her skepticism. Tanisha's chest tightened, but she kept her expression neutral. She'd faced this before, microaggressions dressed as protocol, the assumption she didn't belong. She suggested checking the reservation under Carter Innovations. Marlene's eyes flicked to Tanisha's blazer, then back to the screen, unimpressed. The air grew heavier, the lobby's hum fading as Tanisha felt the weight of being singled out. The situation escalated quietly. A manager, Gregory, appeared, his suit pristine but his smile forced. He echoed Marlene's claim, no reservation existed. Tanisha's patience frayed, but she held firm, pulling out her phone to show the confirmation email with the hotel's logo. Gregory barely glanced at it, his tone polite but final. The hotel was fully booked, he said, suggesting she try elsewhere. Tanisha's pulse quickened. This wasn't a mistake, it was a dismissal, her presence deemed incompatible with the Grand Meridian's image. A small crowd gathered nearby, guests checking in, a bellhop lingering. Their gazes felt heavy, some curious, others indifferent. Tanisha's hand trembled as she reached for her ID, but then she paused. In her wallet was another card, one she rarely used, her Forbes 30 Under 30 badge, a relic from 3 years ago when her startup went viral. She slid it across the counter alongside her ID, her eyes locked on Gregory's. The move was deliberate, a quiet challenge to their assumptions. Gregory's smile faltered. He picked up the badge, his fingers hesitating. Marlene leaned over, her skepticism shifting to unease. The badge was unmistakable, Tanisha's name and photo emblazoned next to the Forbes logo. Gregory's eyes darted between the badge and Tanisha, as if seeing her for the first time. The lobby's hum returned, louder now, as whispers rippled through the onlookers. Someone pulled out a phone, the soft click of a camera breaking the silence. Another followed, then another, their lenses trained on the scene. Tanisha stood taller, her voice calm but firm. She wasn't leaving until her reservation was honored. Gregory stammered, promising to check again. As he retreated to a back office, Tanisha's phone buzzed in her pocket, texts from her team, notifications from X. She ignored them, her focus on the moment. The crowd grew, more phones appearing, capturing every second. She felt exposed, yet a fire kindled within her. This wasn't just about a room, it was about being seen, about claiming her place in a world that too often pushed her aside. By the time Gregory returned, flustered and clutching a key to her suite, the video of the confrontation was spreading online. Tanisha's reservation was miraculously found, and the key pressed into her hand felt like a grudging concession. The victory was hollow. As she rode the elevator to her floor, her phone buzzed relentlessly, X posts, news alerts, messages from friends. The internet was ablaze, her face trending under hashtags like hashtag Black Excellence and hashtag Hotel Bias. In her suite, she sank onto the plush bed, the city lights sprawling beyond the window. She opened X, scrolling through the posts. Some praised her poise, others raged at the hotel, a few questioned her motives. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard, but she didn't respond. Not yet. The gala was tomorrow, and her speech loomed. But now, it carried a new weight. This fight was no longer just hers. Morning sun filtered through Tanisha's suite, casting soft shadows across the room. She sat at the desk, her laptop open, the cursor blinking on a blank document. Her keynote speech for the gala felt inadequate now. The viral video had transformed her from a tech innovator into a symbol of resistance overnight. Her inbox overflowed, support from strangers, interview requests, cautious PR drafts from her team. The world was watching, and Tanisha felt the pressure to define this moment before others did. She stood, pacing the room. The suite's luxury mocked the humiliation of the previous day. The Grand Meridian's statement, a generic apology about miscommunication, rang hollow. Her followers tore it apart, demanding accountability. Tanisha watched the video again, her composed stance, Gregory's faltering smile, the crowd's murmurs. It had millions of views, shared by activists, celebrities, and everyday people. Each share felt like a brick in a growing wall of outrage, a call she couldn't ignore. Her thoughts drifted to her childhood in Decatur, a working-class suburb of Atlanta. Her mother, a nurse, had taught her to stand tall against dismissal, to demand respect. Those lessons carried her through boardrooms, where her ideas were often questioned before being heard. The hotel incident wasn't new, it was a louder echo of a lifetime of slights. But this time, the world was listening, amplifying her truth in ways she hadn't anticipated. Tanisha returned to her laptop, her fingers moving with purpose. The speech needed to change. It wasn't enough to talk about financial inclusion or tech innovation. She had to address the deeper truth, the barriers Black women faced, the constant need to prove their worth. Her words flowed, raw and unpolished, weaving her story into a call for change. The gala wasn't just a celebration anymore, it was a platform to challenge the status quo. A knock at the door startled her. It was Kayla, her best friend, who'd flown in for the gala. Kayla's warmth cut through the chaos, grounding Tanisha. They sat on the couch, scrolling through X. The hashtag Justice for Tanisha trended, alongside calls to boycott the Grand Meridian. A local activist group planned a protest outside the hotel that evening. Tanisha's heart raced, she hadn't asked for this, but she couldn't turn away. Kayla urged her to speak out, to own the narrative. Tanisha hesitated, her career built on precision, not public battles. But as they watched the video again, her resolve hardened. She opened X, typing a post that was simple but direct. She thanked her supporters, affirmed her commitment to the gala, and promised to address the incident in her speech. She hit send, her phone lighting up instantly with responses, shares, likes, comments pouring in. The day blurred into meetings and preparations. Her team arrived, their laptops humming as they monitored the online storm. The gala organizers reached out, offering extra security and a chance to soften her speech's tone. Tanisha declined the latter, she wouldn't dilute her message. By afternoon, she was at the venue, a grand ballroom in Midtown, its walls adorned with photos of Black trailblazers. The energy was electric, attendees buzzing about her story. As Tanisha rehearsed backstage, her phone buzzed with a news alert. The protest outside the Grand Meridian had begun, hundreds gathering with signs demanding justice. Live streams showed chants of her name, their voices carrying across the city. Tanisha's throat tightened. This was bigger than her now, a movement she hadn't started but couldn't abandon. The gala began, the room packed with Black professionals, artists, and leaders. Tanisha sat at a front table, her hands clasped to steady her nerves. The host introduced her, the applause thunderous. She stepped to the podium, the spotlight warm on her face. Her speech began with her startup's mission, but soon shifted to the hotel incident. She spoke of being unseen, of fighting for a seat at the table. The room was silent, every word landing like a stone in still water. She closed with a call to challenge bias and lift each other up. The applause was deafening, a release of shared pain and hope. As she left the stage, her phone vibrated, protest crowds had grown, spilling into the streets. The fight was far from over. The days following the gala swirled into a storm of attention. Tanisha's speech, clipped and shared across X, ignited conversations about race, class, and privilege. News outlets replayed her words, her poised delivery juxtaposed against the raw emotion of her story. The Grand Meridian faced unrelenting pressure, boycotts choked their bookings, online reviews turned venomous, and corporate sponsors began pulling away. Their stock dipped, a quiet signal of the cost of their misstep. Tanisha watched it unfold from a new refuge, a black-owned hotel in Sweet Auburn, its lobby adorned with vibrant murals and the scent of fresh coffee. The owner, Ms. Evelyn, a woman in her 60s with a warm smile, welcomed Tanisha like family, sharing stories of Atlanta's civil rights battles over cups of tea. The change grounded Tanisha, anchoring her to a community that understood her fight. Her team worked tirelessly, their laptops a constant hum as they sifted through an avalanche of emails, partnership offers, media requests, and messages from supporters. Activists reached out, inviting her to rallies and panels across the city. Tanisha joined one at a community center in Vine City, a low brick building surrounded by oak trees. The room was packed with a diverse crowd, young students with backpacks, elders with weathered hands, working parents balancing hope and exhaustion. They listened as Tanisha shared her story, their nods and murmurs a quiet affirmation. Their faces stayed with her, a reminder of the stakes. But doubt crept in, gnawing at her confidence. Was she ready for this role? Could she balance her company's mission with this new, public fight? The Grand Meridian's CEO, Richard Hale, released a video apology on X, his polished demeanor promising an internal investigation and diversity training. The internet saw through it, users dissecting its corporate sheen and lack of specificity. Tanisha watched it on her phone, her jaw tight. The apology didn't name her, didn't acknowledge the systemic bias that fueled the incident. It felt like a dodge, a way to appease without committing. Her followers agreed, their posts sharp with frustration. Tanisha opened X, drafting a response that cut through the noise. She called for concrete change, a public apology naming her, a third-party audit of the hotel's practices, and a fund to support black-owned businesses in Atlanta. She hit send, and the hashtag #MakeItRight surged, amplified by thousands who saw her as their voice. A week later, an email from Hale's office arrived, inviting Tanisha to a meeting at the Grand Meridian. Her team was skeptical, warning it could be a PR stunt to salvage the hotel's image. Kayla, ever blunt, called it a trap, urging Tanisha to stay away. But Tanisha saw a chance to push for real change, to confront the system face to face. She agreed to the meeting, but on her terms. It would be public, streamed live on X to ensure transparency. Hale hesitated, his team pushing back, but the mounting pressure, protests growing outside the hotel, their brand in freefall, forced his hand. The meeting was set in the Grand Meridian's conference room, its floor-to-ceiling windows framing Atlanta's skyline. Tanisha arrived with her lawyer, a sharp woman named Denise, and 2 team members, their presence a quiet assertion of power. Hale sat across from her, flanked by 3 executives in crisp suits, their faces a mix of tension and defensiveness. The live stream began, thousands tuning in, the chat a flurry of anticipation. Tanisha sat straight, her notes untouched on the table. She didn't need them, her truth was her guide. She laid out her demands with precision, a public apology that named her, an independent audit to root out bias, and a substantial fund for Atlanta's black entrepreneurs. Hale listened, his fingers steepled, his expression unreadable. He offered concessions, expanded training, a scholarship program, but balked at her core demands, citing logistical challenges. Tanisha didn't flinch. She leaned forward, her voice steady, recounting the lobby incident, the weight of Marlene's skepticism, Gregory's dismissal, the sting of being unseen in a space she'd earned. She spoke of the broader pattern, the countless others who'd faced similar slights without a platform to fight back. The room was silent, the executive's eyes shifting uncomfortably. The live stream's chat exploded, filled with heart emojis and calls for justice. Hale's resolve began to crack. The pressure of the live stream, the weight of Tanisha's words, and the growing boycott forced his hand. He agreed to her terms, a named apology, an audit, and a fund, his voice strained but resigned. The executives exchanged glances, but none objected. Tanisha felt a quiet triumph, but it was tempered by realism. This was a victory, but not the end. As the meeting ended, she shook Hale's hand, her grip firm, her eyes unwavering. The live stream cut off, but the moment reverberated online, dissected by commentators and celebrated by supporters. Back at the Sweet Auburn Hotel, Tanisha sat with Ms. Evelyn, the owner, pouring her another cup of tea. They watched the city lights flicker, the conversation turning to next steps. Tanisha opened her laptop, drafting plans for a tech hub in Atlanta, partly funded by the hotel's reparations. It would be called Carter's Corner, a space for Black entrepreneurs to thrive. The idea felt right, a way to channel this moment into lasting change. Her team buzzed with ideas, sketching out programs for mentorship and funding. The protests outside the Grand Meridian had quieted, but their spirit lived in Tanisha's work. She felt the weight of responsibility, to her company, her community, herself, but also a spark of hope. This was her fight now, and she was ready to lead it. Months later, Carter's Corner took shape in Sweet Auburn, its foundation laid with community hands. The tech hub was a vision made real, its walls painted with murals by local artists, depicting Atlanta's history of resilience. HBCU students interned on the project, their laughter mingling with the hum of construction. Tanisha split her days between the hub and Carter Innovations, her schedule grueling but fueled by purpose. The Grand Meridian's reparations fund supported the hub, but Tanisha ensured its independence, wary of corporate strings. She met weekly with community leaders, their input shaping every program, from coding bootcamps to startup grants. The hotel's reforms progressed slowly. The third-party audit, now underway, exposed deep biases in hiring, training, and guest treatment. Several staff members, including Gregory, were let go, and new policies were drafted. Tanisha's team monitored the changes through public reports, holding the hotel accountable. She received updates from Denise, her lawyer, who reviewed the hotel's compliance with their agreement. The Fund for Black Businesses was active, distributing grants to entrepreneurs across Atlanta. Tanisha visited some recipients, a bakery in West End, a tech repair shop in Bankhead, each success a small victory. Her public role grew, though it wasn't without strain. Tanisha spoke at grassroots events, prioritizing community voices over glitzy conferences. At a town hall in a Decatur church, she shared the hub's progress, 50 entrepreneurs enrolled, 10 startups funded. But she was honest about the challenges, funding gaps, logistical hurdles, the pressure of leading a movement. Her transparency disarmed skeptics, and local businesses stepped up, pledging resources. One evening, a hardware store owner offered free supplies for the hub's computer lab, his gruff voice soft with pride. Tanisha thanked him, her eyes stinging with gratitude. Mentoring became her anchor. She met Deja, a young coder at a coding camp, whose app for community organizing echoed Tanisha's early work. They spent hours refining Deja's code, Tanisha marveling at her drive. The hub's first cohort graduated, their pitches drawing investors from across the South. Tanisha sat in the front row, her heart swelling as Deja presented, her app now a prototype with funding potential. The room erupted in applause, a shared celebration of possibility. Challenges persisted. Funding remained tight, and some in the community questioned Tanisha's leadership, calling her a figurehead propped up by the viral moment. The criticism stung, but she faced it head-on. At another town hall, she admitted her doubts, her voice raw as she spoke of the pressure to be perfect. The crowd listened, their silence a kind of trust. A young mother stood, sharing her own story of being dismissed, and pledged to volunteer at the hub. Others followed, their support a lifeline. Tanisha's personal life shifted too. Kayla moved to Atlanta, joining the hub's team as a program coordinator. Her presence was a balm, their late-night talks over takeout a reminder of simpler days. Tanisha's mother visited often, her pride quiet but fierce. They walked through Sweet Auburn, passing historic sites where civil rights battles were fought. Her mother's stories, of marches, of resilience, felt like a blueprint for Tanisha's work. She carried them with her, a steadying force. Her ex-presence evolved, her posts now focused on the hub's impact. She shared stories of entrepreneurs like Deja, or a single father whose app secured funding. Her followers grew, a mix of supporters and critics. Some accused her of exploiting the hotel incident, others praised her tenacity. Tanisha engaged with both, her responses measured but honest. The Grand Meridian invited her to an anniversary event, touting their reforms. She declined, sending a statement praising the community's role in pushing for change. Instead, she spent that day at the hub, hosting a youth coding camp. The kids' laughter, their fingers flying across keyboards, was a sound of hope. The viral moment had faded, but its impact endured. Tanisha's keynote invitations continued, but she chose carefully, favoring events where she could amplify new voices. At a high school in East Atlanta, she spoke to students about tech and resilience, her words sparking dreams in their eyes. She saw herself in them, the girl from Decatur who dared to build something new. Carter's Corner was becoming a beacon, drawing entrepreneurs from across the region. Tanisha walked its halls, seeing her vision take root, a testament to what courage and community could build. A year after the incident, Tanisha stood on the rooftop of Carter's Corner, the Atlanta skyline stretching before her. The hub thrived, its programs reaching hundreds, coders, designers, entrepreneurs building futures from the ground up. The Grand Meridian's reforms continued, their audit reshaping policies, though gaps remained. Tanisha's startup, Carter Innovations, had grown too, its mission of financial inclusion now intertwined with the hub's work. She was exhausted but fulfilled, her purpose clearer than ever. She reflected on the journey, the lobby confrontation, the gala speech, the protests that shook the city. Each moment had pushed her to redefine herself, to lead not just for herself but for a community that refused to be unseen. The viral video was a distant memory, its power now in the lives it touched. Tanisha's mother joined her on the rooftop, their silence comfortable as they watched the city's lights flicker. Her mother's hand rested on hers, a quiet anchor to her roots in Decatur, where resilience was a way of life. At the hub's anniversary event, Tanisha stood before a packed room, the air buzzing with pride. She shared the hub's successes, 200 entrepreneurs mentored, 20 startups funded, a computer lab serving local youth. But she didn't shy away from the struggles, funding shortages, the weight of expectations. Her voice cracked as she thanked the community, their faces a tapestry of hope and grit. She spoke of the hotel incident, not as a singular event but as a spark for collective action. Her closing words were a call to build, to fight, to stay united, each syllable carrying the weight of their shared journey. The applause was warm, a shared promise that echoed beyond the room. Deja approached, her app now fully funded and gaining users. They hugged, Tanisha seeing her younger self in Deja's determined eyes. The moment felt like a passing of the torch, a sign that the work would continue. Later, the crowd gathered outside, where a new mural was unveiled, a vibrant depiction of Atlanta's Black innovators, Tanisha's face among them. She stood back, letting others take the spotlight, her heart full. The night ended with a pledge: Carter's Corner would expand, opening satellites in other cities. Tanisha looked at the crowd, students sketching app ideas, entrepreneurs swapping business cards, allies listening intently. This was her legacy, not the viral moment but the work that followed. The hub was a living testament to what courage could start and unity could sustain. She thought of Ms. Evelyn, who'd hosted her in those early days, and of Kayla, now a partner in this vision. Their belief in her had carried her through. Tanisha's ex-posts continued to share the hub's stories, each one a ripple of change. She received letters from across the country, young women inspired to code, community leaders launching their own hubs. The Grand Meridian's fund grew, supporting more businesses, though Tanisha remained vigilant, ensuring accountability. Her mother's words echoed: "You don't just fight for yourself, you fight for those coming after." Tanisha carried that truth, her steps lighter despite the weight. As the city lights blinked below, Tanisha felt a quiet peace. The fight wasn't over, bias lingered, systems resisted, but the hub was proof that change was possible. She was no longer the woman in the lobby, proving her worth. She was a builder, a leader, part of a community that refused to be silenced. The skyline stretched on, a canvas of struggle and hope, and Tanisha knew her work, their work, would light the way forward. Unity builds what courage begins.